It's just like word salad, John. Some of what you're saying makes sense, but not in the order in which you're saying it.
Well, I'm just trying to express a point at the end of the day. It's going to tin pot.
Right, okay. Everything's coming up roses. I believe that the patriotic phrase you're after there, John, is everything is coming up roses. Or as Liz Truss would say...
We have never had it so good.
Never had it so good, so says Liz Truss, the next leader of this country. Paul texts, will Liz Truss nuke anyone else, or is it just us? Anyone who's lefty, Paul, watch yourself. All lefties are going to get it. Dale says, after listening to some of your old shows, I noticed a lot of your predictions have come true. Do you think that you could be the next David Icke? And Ling's emails, massive Norman Wisdom fan who's still alive here. Even Mr. Duran Duran gig to see Norman in Panto as Buttons, and that was a huge deal for me back in the day. Wow. Having read the first line, I didn't think that my opinion of you, Lings, could fall any lower. And then you said you even missed a Duran Duran gig to go and see him. So, I stand corrected. Greg says, Truss is like a nervous, floundering schoolgirl, like she was when she addressed her own Lib Dem conference many moons ago. Loving the reaction she is getting from the rabid right-wing Tory seals, clapping their flippers when she says hateful things about Macron, Sturgeon and Drakeford. On September the 5th, she won't be in front of such people anymore. She will be facing the rest of us. She will be like a terrified rabbit in the headlights. She won't last 5 minutes. I'll take a small bet that the Conservative Party under Liz Truss will win the next general election just by pointing at dinghies. Or talking about lefty lawyers, enemy of the people judges, people on benefits. No! Anybody who deliberately got born to poor parents. Better vote for me or we won't be able to get Brexit done. John says, I discovered a song by a band called A Winged Victory for the Sullen, and I thought of you. Called, I kid you not, the Haunted Victorian Pencil. It's mostly ambient. Well, that's James O'Brien's line, isn't it? The Haunted Pencil. But there's a band called A Winged Victory for the Sullen. I'm going to look that up. I'm choosing not to believe you, John, until proven otherwise. Highgate. Hello, Claire.
Oh, hi, Nick. Hi. You're on good form tonight.
Thanks.
Now, having given you a compliment, are you going to do me a favour?
No.
And the correct answer is yes.
No.
Yes. Now, what I'm going to ask you is, right at this early stage, would you be an angel, please, and only refer to Liz Truss as Truss to please me, because all of the listeners always follow your lead, and so we can avoid this awful situation where we had Boris all the time.
Well,
that sort of cuddly, friendly name.
Yeah.
So if you just always call her Truss, and Sunak, call him Sunak, hopefully the rest of the population will start to think of these people as adults as they ought to be, not the friendly, cuddly.
I know what you're saying. I have 5 other names for her.
Oh, go on then. What?
There's the Lizbot.
Affirmative.
The Blunder Truss, Fizzy Lizzie, the Brains Truss, and Thick Lizzie.
Yeah, those are fine. As long as you don't call her Liz, I'll let you use all of those because they're funny. Yeah. And Sunak, what about Sunak?
Well, all I've got for him so far is Fishy Sunak or Richie. I can't remember. Somebody came in with Richie.
Fishy Rishi, isn't it? Fishy Rishi.
Fishy Rishi, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm claiming that as mine.
Yeah.
Somebody came up with someone other. I can't remember what it is, but a lot of them have difficult names to make something of. Like I am utterly stumped by Nadeem Zahawi. I just can't think of. I mean, I'll ask him.
So obviously, but I know certainly, but you know, but obviously,
He's stumped too.
This is wonderful. Wonderful. Well done. You're on the right track. So if you want to keep me as one of your listeners, Nick, you have to just not call them by their first name, and I'll be happy.
Right.
And you want me to be happy.
Well,
You do.
I want you to be HAPPY. So I will do it straight away, if not sooner. Thanks a lot, Claire. Excellent suggestion. Stop calling these people by their first name. They're not your friends. It's the opposite of that. And they're not your pets either. It sort of makes you sympathise with them, where such sympathy is not warranted. Oh, leave him alone. He's doing his best.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Like that. He's not your friend. He's not your pet. But he has just made a mess on the carpet.
Disgusting.
Martin tweets, if there is nuclear fallout, will the temperature go up and will we save on our heating bills? Will I save more by downloading the whole show and skipping the ads? Will we save on our heating bills? Yeah, it would be like you remember Ready Brek? Used to do adverts in the 60s, probably maybe the 70s. And kids used to eat the Ready Brek. Other cereals are available. And they had this glow inside. You remember that? Well, that's what we'll all be like. We will not need to turn the central heating on when Liz Truss gets her hand on the big red button. Ealing. Hello, John.
Hello, Nick. Do you know, you spoke to a fellow earlier on, and I think his argument was that it's important to hear Liz Truss saying something along the lines of, it would be my duty as the Prime Minister to press the button.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that correlated across from, do you trust the French Prime Minister? The last time I checked, France wasn't threatening to nuke us. So I don't understand how, and that fellow you were talking to said something on the lines of, oh, you've seen Putin walking around with his red button stroke football. And it's like, this is the problem. You made another, observation, which I agree with as well. You're walking down the road, you see people dragging their knuckles.
Yeah.
Careful. Knuckles. But from what I can tell, when I look around myself, a lot of these individuals are like a carrier bag full of organs that could have been used for somebody better.
Quite right, yeah. They're mouth breathers.
Yeah, of course. And they don't understand the concept. They don't understand the concept. It's like, they don't understand what patriotism is and why it's misguided to say these things. Why it's misguided to get all kind of... She's supposed to be... Think about it, right? She's supposed to be diplomatic.
She is our actual chief diplomat.
I know.
If you can believe that.
I mean, how is that like setting a good pathway across to being a premier or prime minister?
Well, I mean, who did exactly that.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
He was our chief diplomat, and then he became the dear leader. So it's like a well-worn track. And by the way, if France have not threatened to nuke us, then we'd better get in there quick and nuke them first.
This is the point. But also, Nick, I'll tell you something. People talk about is their life in space. There isn't bloody intelligent life on Earth.
No.
To be honest, if I was an alien coming down here, right, I would have zapped the whole front row of the Conservative Party.
John, if you were an alien coming down here, you would have taken one look through your alien binoculars with all 6 of your eyes, and you've seen this is not a place to take a holiday, and gone to somewhere more pleasant and temperate, like Uranus, for instance. Thanks a lot, John. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Nick Abbott.
And I can't stand him.
Groovy tweets, if Nick Abbott plus other presenters on TV, radio bet their homes on Truss to be PM, then Nick Abbott and all the other presenters would be homeless. In fact, cause Sunak is PM in Sept, and that's 100% fact. There was one comma in there, in the wrong place. Martin tweets, if there is a nuclear fallout, will the temperature go up? No, I read that. Joe says, happy belated birthday. Thanks, Joe. My birthday tomorrow, says Joe. How about this? I had my left knee x-rayed at 1:30 today, and the results were sent to me at 5:30. Wow. I am stunned. Somebody's found a part of the NHS that actually works. Can you believe that?
No.
Something happened with our health service in the way that it is supposed to happen. No one can believe it. Manchester, Stephen.
Oh, God, you caught me on the toilet. All right, I'm all right.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Stephen. We'll put you on hold. We don't wish to know that. Not now, not ever, never. Dublin, Tony. Tony. Yes, Tony. Tony's listening to the radio and will be with us in 7 seconds when he hears his name come out of the radio and realises he's been on the air for... Yes, Tony.
Hello. Hiya. I live in Dublin, and I'm interested in British politics, but I just can't believe that you accept what the Boris Johnson and Liz Truss is saying as truth.
Me?
It's all lies. I mean, the levelling up, for argument's sake. I mean, where was it levelled up? And anything they said, the Conservative Party, total lies. You're getting into Trumpism. And we can see it from the outside, but you can't see it from the inside.
Tony, do you listen? Tony, do you listen to this show? No. Don't tell me I can't see it. I'm yelling here in the dark, pretty much exactly what you just said. For 9 hours a week. I work 9 hours a week. And, some people are complaining that they have to work so hard just to scrape by. I work 9 whole hours a week. But you know me, I never complain.
Stop whining.
Thanks a lot, Tony, for pointing out a bloomin' obvious. I accept it. I mean, you're talking about me or just us in general? Not the entire population. The majority of the population can't stand it. But the majority of the population's opinion counts for nothing because of the stupid, screwed-up system that we have of politics in this country. A democracy. It's like a democracy, but not really. If 43% of those who could be bothered to vote get 100% of the power, it's not democratic. It's the opposite of that. And even those people that were persuaded to vote, the 43% or 6%, whatever it was, of the people that could be bothered to vote, even they don't get what they want. They get what they were told that they were going to get, which was 100% false in every regard. I mean, name me one thing that they promised before the election that has actually come to pass. One. I'll make it really easy for you. One thing, just one. Got Brexit done. No, they didn't. Wrong. They didn't. It's still not done. They're still negotiating. Because the melting candle came back with a deal that was the worst deal that anybody had ever written in history, unless you were European, in which case they couldn't believe their luck and they're still laughing. It's like when the Trust bot negotiated that super deal with New Zealand. Our British farmers said, and their New Zealand farmers said, they couldn't believe it. But she signed just any old thing just so that she could stand on stage and say, I've signed a great deal. It wasn't a great deal. It's a terrible deal. It's a deal that spelled, if the British farmers weren't going to pack up and collapse through COVID and the cost of living crisis and the cost of fuel and all the rest of it, if that wasn't going to do for them, then the deal that the Trust bot signed with New Zealand is going to do it for them. And they just keep... I don't know. Let's talk about the weather, or just anything else. Oh, no, that's right, can't. Anyway, Tony, don't blame me. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm completely on your side.
I'm not blaming you at all. I think you're doing a great job. What I'm saying is I can't understand why the general public in Britain can't see what is happening. And that is amazing to me.
I think that we can see, but our opinion counts for nothing.
But why don't you do something about it, like go out in the streets and demand a general election?
Tony, we're not French. We'd rather just shrug our shoulders and say, oh, well, mustn't grumble. Here we are starving to death. If we don't freeze to death first, then we're going to starve to death, and we'll still be, oh, well, that Liz, she's doing her best. That'll be our attitude. It's just remarkable what we'll put up with in this country. They lie and they lie and they lie and they lie and they lie, and then they lie about their lying, and our reaction is, oh well, they're doing their best. And something I bet that about the same percentage of the population that voted for the Conservative Party next time around will vote for them at the next general election. I bet it won't be too far off. And the centre and the left will, of course, do their usual thing where they form a circular firing squad and they'll take each other out. They'll split the vote between the Greenies and the Lib Dems and the Labour Party and whoever else crops up, the Enough is Enough party, by which method the Tories will win again. I betcha. And as Liz Truss becomes our next dear leader for life, who would bet against that? Then you know who is going to be the leader of America at the same time.
I'm president. Can you believe it?
What could possibly go wrong? 0345 6060 973. Thanks a lot, Tony. Thanks for giving us the bad news. We know already. Randall says, you'll like this. Zahawi, who is boring and... Boring? Well, what makes you say that?
So obviously
yeah, okay. He says, Zahawi, who is boring and can't count, told people to cut their energy use today. This coming from a man who claimed £6,000 on expenses to heat his stables. That's followed up by saying that it was a mistake and he would pay some of it back. Appreciate it, Zaphod.
Thank you.
You're the best. It's just numbers and noise signifying nothing.
86%, 5 million, and of course over 50%. And what I'm saying is...
Oh, stop saying it. When he starts going on with the numbers, you just tune right out because it's meaningless. Doesn't mean anything at all. Well, of course, we had £35 billion, and that was 56% more than the £110 billion that we were... it just fills the air with noise and numbers. John emails, the lady who confronted Steve Barclay outside a hospital summed up 12 years of Tory rule on ambulance waiting times. You've done bleep all about it, she said. Labour should hire her to lead their next election campaign. Or her next election campaign. I'd vote for her. I'd vote for her right now. Yeah, Steve Barclay. If you haven't seen that yet, it's worth seeing. This nice lady approached Steve Barclay and gave him a bit of what for, basically telling him the truth. And he looked at her like, I don't know, like he'd found something on the bottom of his shoe. And she had a go at him, a couple of sentences, pithy and to the point, and then she marched off. And he looked back at the camera with this sort of detached amusement, as though to say, oh, well, another whoop-de-doo, another. That's the public for you. Now back to me. We're not on your side, Steve. I think we're on the ladies' side. We're with her. Jenny says, so which university did you go to, Nick, if you are the judge of who is thick? Liz Truss went to Oxford. No doubt you'll have some puerile response. There's Jenny, who's very, very angry. She's a very angry person, is Jenny. Jenny likes to listen to radio shows that she dislikes and disapproves of in order to make her angrier. Liz Truss went to Oxford. Well, if that don't tell you everything you need to know about Oxford and Cambridge, then I don't know what does. Ain't necessarily the best of us. Is that puerile enough for you? 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Hagar texts, Swishy Fishy and Dizzy Lizzy have announced that they're forming the Thatcher Worshippers and Tory Society. The Wheel Tappers and Shunters Social Club, is that what you were going for there? Only a certain demographic will understand that, Hagar. And most of whom couldn't hear that because they didn't have their hearing aid in.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
Dan texts, is your programme being exclusively broadcast to an insane asylum and my house tonight? Sue says, Liz Truss needs to calm down a bit. We might import a bit too much cheese from France, but talk of using the red button is a little OTT. She thinks you're OTT, Liz.
That is a disgrace.
Yes, she went to Oxford. Wow. That doesn't say much for Oxford, does it? Jerry emails, Liz Truss has never been on the button, so I doubt she would want to damage her pristine fingernails pressing the red button. That was if she ever knew what it was. She probably thinks that the lipstick in her handbag is a rocket, says Jerry. That was excruciating, Jerry. Janice emails, if MPs couldn't claim back unlimited energy bills, would they then actually do something? Asking for a country, says Janice. Well, that sounds like lefty socialist talk to me, Janice. Rwanda is the next stop for you. That's what they're going to fight the next general election on. How unpleasantly cruel they can be to foreigners. And this woke nonsense that they keep trying to make a thing out of. And I think, apart from the people that occupy the comment section of the Daily Mail online, apart from those people, nobody's that bothered about woke. I mean, what does woke actually mean? I mean, but they're pinning their hopes on it, that we're all going to be obsessed with wokeness and that we'll be very, very angry with anybody that's showing concern for the feelings of others. Because they ain't got nothing else. I mean, can they go on law and order?
No.
I mean, the Conservative Party going to fight the next general election on their fiscal probity? No. What else have they got? John emails 30 years of COP conferences all saying don't use fossil fuels or it's the end of us. And here we are, still using fossil fuels. And as you can see and hear, we're coming to the end of us. Yeah. I think that if we keep ignoring experts, then nothing can possibly go wrong. That seems to make sense to me. Guildford, hello, Peter.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
I think the reason why the Tory party isn't too worried about helping people is because they are the party of big business. They think it's great that these companies are making profit. In effect, they're the political wing of big corporations. Yeah. That's why they don't care.
Well, that's where the money comes from. The money for the Conservative Party does not come in small donations from many individuals, like the Labour Party gets its money from the unions mostly. It's a small amount of money from millions of people. What the Tory Party does is the opposite of that. They get millions of pounds from a small number of people.
Yeah, that's right. The trade unions, as you know, each member pays a certain amount, and that adds, you get 1 million members, you've got £1 million. But no multi-millionaire gives money to a political party if they're not getting something out of it. And what they have been getting out since the days of Thatcher is they privatised our public services. They actually stole it from the British public.
And then they used it as a monopoly, because that's what was sold. It was sold as a monopoly. You have a monopoly power over something that people cannot do without, and now enjoy yourselves with the compliments of the Conservative Party. And they did, and they still do, hugely.
That's right. We've got, when you look at it, Nick, we've got all this crisis going on. People suffering, disabled people, old people, really worrying to death. And yet we haven't seen we're paying for a Prime Minister who seems to be on holiday whilst in office. What are we paying him for? And we got those other two arguing about who can tax cuts now or tax cuts later. Mm-hmm. It's appalling. It's an appalling lack of democracy, and something's got to be done about this because it is not right.
Well, in the best of circumstances, Peter, what we'll have is another general. I'm not putting any money on there actually being another election. I would not be surprised if we've already had our last general election. That's the way it's going in America. If Trump gets back in, then I would not be surprised at all if he did not make himself leader for life. I mean, it's not unheard of. Other countries have such a person. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way we're going here too, because it seems to me that the leaders of America and this country are both being paid for by the same individuals. Not many of them, but they're worth vast sums, and they seem to be staging a slow-moving coup over the entirety of the planet.
Well, that's right. It took hundreds of years for ordinary people to get some kind of democratic control over government. And, the suffragettes, the Chartist movement, all those sort of people.
But I'm afraid,
Peter... And when
Thatcher
came...
I am afraid that... Okay, you brought her name up. The people that voted for Margaret... Hang on. The people that voted for Margaret Thatcher are also the same people that voted for Boris Johnson. The poor put Boris Johnson in power.
That was council houses.
And the poor put Margaret Thatcher in power. And the poor are going to put the next Conservative Party in they're going to put the next government in power. And it'll probably be the Tories, because the poor, bizarrely, keep voting for the party of the rich.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, with Thatcher, it was quite obvious why they voted Conservative. It was because they sold council houses. I can't tell you, Nick, the amount of people who were council tenants who suddenly thought they were up with the likes of the middle classes because they owned their council house. They were still road sweepers and dustmen and things like that, but they suddenly thought they'd join the middle class, whereas the real middle class laughed their head off. But what it did do was divide the working classes up. When they were all paying rent, they had something in common. As soon as they started selling off council houses, you had some people who thought they were then part of the middle class. And they're the Tory voters that voted for her.
No, that's not true. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that is not entirely true. If you look at the demographics of who voted for the last Tory party, who voted at the last general election Conservative, and the one before that, it's not the people who thought that they were middle class or who became middle class because they were allowed to buy their own homes. It's poor people. It's the people who are barely scraping by. That just blows my mind that they would not vote for the party in whose interests. Oh God, I'm getting mixed up now. They would not vote for the party who would ordinarily be acting in their interests. They do the opposite of that and expect a different result than the one which they've had for 12 years running. I just don't get human beings anymore. I don't.
That was the Brexit issue, I think, that did that, because they had this thing about Brexit and so on. And I think that's why. But this time, they're going to be feeling it in their pockets. Even the Red Wall are going to say, hang on a minute, we can't afford...
Right.
I mean, I'm hearing...
I'm not predicting any such thing will happen. I think that they will say, well, if we vote Labour, then they're going to take Brexit away from us, and so we'll be stuck with it.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually. It is hard to predict these days. who's going to vote for what. You tend to have the middle classes voting Labour and the working classes voting Tory.
That's
now.
exactly right.
It's insane.
It is insane. The whole world has been flipped upside down, and it's burst into flames, and it's sinking. All right, thanks a lot, Peter. 0345 6060 973. Michael texts, Liz Truss already looks like her Gerald Scarf illustration. Where to go with that? I think she's gone about as far as she can go. Tom tweets, I'm on a cruise to New York. I've just checked the news for the first time in 5 days. Can you please answer the question, what the hell is going on? No, I can't. I cannot answer that question. I can pose it.
What the hell is going on?
But I can't answer it. And accurately, are you actually on a cruise to New York or are you on a crossing? Chris says, I can't believe it will be 2 weeks until we can look back and say, what happened to the good old days of Bodger doing his best? Still, if Miss Trust gets in, she has already started U-turning. Firstly, there will be no more handouts, and now more support will be needed. At least she will keep up the good work. I don't expect any major changes anytime soon. It will be, they'll just be carrying on. I mean, sometimes you just got to think, well, it's, maybe if we pretended that this wasn't real life, that it actually can't hurt us. I mean, okay, but at the moment, it can't. Not really. But when it gets cold, then it'll start to hurt. Give it a couple of months. 0345 6060 973. Cheltenham. Hello, Sam.
Hi. The first thing I wanted to say quickly in response to, I think it was Jenny who called earlier, is that I was at Oxford, and one of the surprising things was to find how many thick people there were there. I just thought I'd say that.
Oh, I was not at Oxford, but I went to university at a time when not many people went to university, not like now, where it's like 50%, something like that. And I was quite surprised at how stupid people were at uni. Yeah. I mean, people are stupid. Geniuses are stupid. People make stupid mistakes all the time, no matter what their IQ level or their educational attainment.
Sure. What I wanted to say about, just quickly, first is about what we're suffering at the moment is the legacy of, it is Boris. It's sort of the ghost of Boris, because his incredible irresponsibility and exclusive self-interest is why he established this sort of cabinet of lightweights and inept people who weren't threatening to him. I don't think he was Machiavellian enough and clever enough to sort of plan this, but I think he planned to be ousted. And we're now lumbered with these lightweights and sort of nothing people now going to lead us. So it's Boris. This is Boris. This is why we're stuck with this sort of nightmare.
Yeah, well, he had a cabinet of lightweights, and what is absolutely extraordinary is it seems to be about to get worse. I mean, they're going to have to actually lash themselves to the ground
it'll be lightweights
to avoid floating away. Yes.
Not to be threatened by, so it's the second thing I was going to say is really about the kind of, I suppose, about Rees-Mogg and the kind of sanctimonious end of this weird mutation of the Tory party, that they are actually much closer to Satanism than to Christianity. But really, I mean, the I'm all right, Jack, and woe to the weak, and compassion is disgusting, which is the
well, it's more like I don't know anything about religion other than I'm not remotely interested in religion. But it seems to me that whatever they do next, just think, what would Jesus do, and it'll be the opposite of that.
Well, I rest my case. That's Satanism. I mean, it's very close to that sort of mentality. Anyway, thanks for taking my call. I'm going to go. Bye.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sam. Satanism, Smug.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. Carolyn texts, last night I passed a small art gallery in St Christopher's Place off Wigmore Street, and in the window are two paintings by and signed by Bob Dylan.
Rock and roll!
One is of an empty train track near a small country station. No blood in sight, though, and a snippet, £25,000.
What?
A late birthday present for you, perhaps, says Carolyn. Absolutely. You want to buy me something that costs £25,000? I am not going to stand in your way, Carolyn. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, the only reason that it cost £25,000 for some squiggle that Bob Dylan did is that he's Bob Dylan. If it had been any other person, it would be worth practically nothing at all. Paul texts, there will not be... Is that the same kind of gallery that does like pictures of money for like Borge hedge funders who've just made 100 million, making thousands of grannies penniless, so they go out and celebrate and buy a picture of money. There's a gallery on what the hell is it called? Bond Street. There's a gallery on Bond Street that actually this is the sound of brain failing. That actually sells itself. This is not the phrase I'm looking for, but I'm going to have to go with it anyway, because in a brief 3-hour show, I don't have time for me to think about what it is that I actually meant to say. They market themselves exclusively to hedge funder types who occupy that vague area on the map. And you go in there, and there's pictures of money. This is an indication of who these people are. They do money all day. They don't actually make anything. They don't create anything. They don't improve people's lives in any way, shape or form. They don't invent stuff. They just move numbers about on a screen and make £100 million. And then what are they going to do? Well, they're going to buy a picture of money. You wouldn't believe it, but I'm not making it up. They have pictures of money. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Nick Abbott.
I am not one of your fans!
Paul texts, there will not be a general election until the boundary changes are implemented. You need a passport or driving licence to vote, and areas suspected of not voting Tory have their polling stations moved 30 miles away. Yeah, or in other words, what would Donald Trump do?
Oh, shut up!
Alistair tweets, Liz Truss makes 2 short planks seem like a computer. Well, that's offensive. St Ives, hello, Brenda. An ecstasy of fumbling. There you are. Hello, Brenda.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm great, mate.
2 suggestions for the cabal government for saving energy, for them saving energy. There's been talk about all this putting tinfoil behind your radiator or above it today. That's been the conversation.
Well, that's not a bad idea. Behind the radiator, it's that's a proven aid, that is.
Well, somebody suggested it wasn't. You needed these polystyrene blocks to stick it to, and then it does work. However, the other thing they could have is, I've just had a lovely chicken tikka masala, and I feel really, really warm. So they could try that.
Chicken tikka masala. I could go with a couple of pints of that right now, as a matter of fact. Can you make it into a smoothie and pop it in the post?
I could, yes, but I've got a serious question. I'm really confused, Nick. I've been doing stuff on Facebook, and I've got this comment from somebody. I'm going to read it out to you, and I want your comments. Talking about the energy providers and the energy, Esso and Shell and BP. You are trying to target your energy supply. They're talking about people not paying their bills. They are only middlemen. You are being protected. This is the thing that makes me laugh. You are being protected from much higher bills by government regulation at the moment. The government is targeting the excess profits of producers currently. Currently, you don't interact with producers. You are trying to shoot the wrong company. Can you help me there?
Yes, I can. Turn off the computer and walk away from the screen.
No, I just want an answer. Are we targeting the energy supply like Octopus and Bulb and all the others? Are we targeting them? And they're only the brokers. We should be targeting, according to him, we should be targeting the producers, Shell, BP, and Esso.
Right.
And this thing about the government protecting us from at the moment by government regulation, that is coming from someone who's insane, because Ofgem is controlled by the government, and they lay down the laws. So if people don't pay their bills, so that money we pay to these brokers, they pay that to the producers. Is that correct?
They have a kernel of truth in what they said. I wouldn't give them the time of day if I were you, Brenda, but what they say is partly true. The people that are making the money hand over fist, those companies have been turned into cash machines. They're the people that get the oil out the ground, the oil and the gas. Those are the people that the producers. They don't really produce it.
Yeah, but not the providers.
The
are the ones
providers,
that we pay our direct debits
the
to.
retail companies are quite often the same company. It's just a different branch of the same company that yanks that stuff out of the ground. Now, those people are making untold billions of pounds in profits. Now, it's a different branch of the company, and they might have offices in a different building, but it's the same company.
Right,
now, the retailers...
So like Bulb and Octopus, not Octopus, they're a good company, Bulb and these other ones, they're in cahoots with the big producers.
Well,
right?
they're not in cahoots. It's like a wholesale and retail.
Right.
The wholesalers are the ones that are making all the money. The retailers are making plenty of money, thanks very much, but not as much as the wholesalers are.
Right. So the fact that he said the government are regulating the prices.
Well, that's horse feathers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The French. Oh, thank you, Brenda. The French are doing that. The French are controlling the price that the people in France pay. But we don't want to be like the French, because that's lefty communist talk, that is. I mean, the French are only having a 4% increase on their energy bills. We're having a 400% increase because that's the patriotic British thing to do. And some people are making money like you wouldn't believe. Energy boss Linda Cook is looking forward to a £770,000 payday in October.
What?
£770,000. Linda Cook, CEO of North Sea oil and gas producer Harbour Energy, made the £770,000 mark. That's don't get annoyed about that. Get annoyed about this. Linda Cook, CEO of North Sea oil and gas producer Harbour Energy, made almost £6 million in pay and perks last year. What? £6 million. The £770,000 adds a similar sum that she was entitled to in May. They've gotten so much money that they literally don't know what to do with it. The 64-year-old American is benefiting from an £84 million interim dividend announced by Harbour Energy as profits rose 1,100%. Did your income rise 1,100% in the last year?
No.
Well, that's just you not trying hard enough. That's, by the way, that's just in 6 months. That's not in 1 year. That's in 6 months. It rose 1,100%, their profits. 1,100% profit increase in 6 months. The first half of this year. £1.3 billion in real money. In the same period, British gas owner Centrica made £1.3 billion, BP made £12 billion, and Shell made £17 billion, making a grand total of £31 billion for their combined half-year profits. So if they keep going at that rate, it'll be £62 billion by the end of the year. But of course, it's not going to be at that rate. It's going to be vastly more than that because the price just keeps going up and up and up. So let's say £100 billion for the year. We could just spread that about. Us poor dopes who pay taxes. But, the next leader of the Conservative Party doesn't want to do that. The Trust bot has set her face against that because she wants to protect the energy giants from, I've got no idea, us? I think it should be the other way around. But, that kind of talk makes me a communist, I suppose. 0345 6060 973. Matt texts, Arthur Daly said about Margaret Thatcher, she's a bloomin' genius. She sold the country a whole host of things we already owned. That's right. Except they didn't sell it to us. They sold it off to somebody else, who then charged us as a monopoly. I'll say it again. What kind of a stupid country sells its water? What kind of a stupid country sells all of the things that it actually relies on and then presents them as monopolies to private companies expecting a positive result for us? No one would do that. No one would be that stupid. So the only other conclusion that you can come to is they knew that what would happen, and that's the plan. There's absolutely no way that a company that's presented with a monopoly is going to pour back the money that it makes in research and development, in protecting the industry, its own business for the future. They'll just pour the money that comes in because they're not in competition with anybody. It's a monopoly. So there is no point at which the money will not come pouring in. And they can do anything. If you want to drink water, then you can be as annoyed with your water company as you like. There's nothing you can do about it. At all. Ever. So, of course they're not going to be spending all the money that they can on fixing the leaks. They're going to be giving it to themselves as bonuses for excellence in showing up to work. It's just also painful. And I'm kind of surprised that more people haven't been furiously calling me up, haranguing me for criticising Boris Johnson because he's doing his best. Or his predecessor. Or the one before that. Or the next one. I mean, she hasn't even got in power yet and she's doing her best. And David Cameron.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, well, we're not missing you, Dave. But if we do, we know where to find you. You'll be in the shed where they keep the tools. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 12:30.
Nick Abbott on LBC.
You're joking.
0345 6060 973. Kath texts, at least Rwanda will be warm and won't have Liz Truss as Prime Minister. Well, that's looking on the bright side there, Kath. I'll see you on the plane. Paul says, Blair, who Starmer obsessively models himself on, even recruiting his guru, didn't undo a single Thatcherite policy, including denationalisation. Despite lying about it while campaigning for leadership, Starmer also rejects nationalisation. Well, there's some truth in that. We are doomed. The only bloke who actually did approve of renationalisation and who could have been in a position of power to do something about it was holed under the waterline and totally sunk by the combined might of the billionaire offshore media barons. Uncle Jezza. Hell no, they wouldn't go. Along with that. Welling Garden City. Hello, Jenny.
Hello.
Yes, Jenny.
How are you?
I'm great, mate. You have to turn the radio down because you'll hear what you said 7 seconds ago and it'll fry your mind.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't expecting to, I wasn't given any warning by your colleagues.
I'll give you a warning.
Warning.
You're on.
Hello. It's good to talk to you, Nick.
Jenny.
I'd normally listen to you when I've got to a point of complete exasperation and desperation.
Yes.
And you've just reinforced my feelings, really.
You normally call me when you're a couple of drinks in.
No, I've never called you before, actually.
Oh.
But I've often heard you when I've been going home from late shifts at night.
Yes.
And feeling a bit depressed about everything.
Depressed?
Yeah.
Everything?
Well, I think I've felt depressed about things generally since June 2016,
Right.
which is where everything went horribly wrong.
June 2016.
Yeah, when this country foolishly voted to leave the EU. And you have consistently called out the ridiculousness of Brexit.
Well, I don't know. An expert told me that things are going pretty good.
Brexit's going great.
So there's that.
Oh, who is the expert? Tell me all about that.
I'm a nutcase.
Him.
Well, I think it's been proven to be a disaster, hasn't it?
Well, it's difficult to prove that it's a disaster. What is easy to prove is that there are no upsides. Not yet. Not that we found. But there's an entire haunted hat stand whose job it is to find a Brexit positive. Does he know anything?
I don't know anything.
Still doesn't know anything.
Well, quite.
Quite. Wow, I drop silences, Jenny, but you are an expert in that. Are you dead? Hello?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, they're still there, right? Okay, just checking. I'll keep checking on you every now and again. How's that sound?
So, Nick, what do you think about the prospective prime ministers we have before us?
Well, in moments of quiet contemplation, when there's no other sound around, and I think of one of the two people that are in the running to become our next dear leader, mostly the sound that my brain makes is this. If that's any help. Thanks a lot, Jenny. 0345 6060 973. Don't get depressed, Jenny. It might never Oh, no. That's right. It already has. Kate texts, Thatcher the milk snatcher also started the process of starving kids. Well, if those children had not decided to be born to poor parents, then they wouldn't be in the position they're in. They only have themselves to blame. Craig emails, and I think that is the essence of a certain type of conservatism. It's like this libertarian thought, this Ayn Rand sort of cult. If you are poor, then you're dragging the world down, and we should find some way of getting rid of you. I think is it in a nutshell. Rich people don't like paying for the sort of things that poor people rely on, because rich people don't use them. Rich people don't use the NHS. Rich people don't really use the police. Rich people don't have any use for care or libraries or any of the stuff that poor people rely on. So why the hell should they pay for them, rich people think? And that seems to be the basis of where we are and where we're going. Craig, and it's to sort of discount the obvious truth that rich people would not be where they are were it not for the work put in by poor people. I mean, Elon Musk, for instance, or that bloke out of Amazon, they wouldn't be worth a bean without the people underneath them who do the work. I mean, if Elon Musk didn't have people screwing in widgets in his factories, and if the bloke out of Amazon didn't have people fulfilling orders in the fulfillment centre, then he wouldn't be worth anything at all. He wouldn't be able to buy a new pair of sunglasses. But the rich don't think like that. They think that they've only achieved their position because of their own genius and hard work. But it's not. It's mostly luck. Life is almost all luck, almost all of it. I can prove it to you if necessary, but I'm running out of time. Don't make me do it. Craig emails, did you hear that Zahawi is working flat out to think up a solution for the cost of living crisis? Flat out in his sunbed, more like, says Craig. Another listener with material. Bromley. Hello, Dave. Dave? Oh, Dave.
sorry.
Yes, Dave.
Hello, Nick. Nice to talk to you.
Dave.
First time I've speak to you. You're really funny. You do make me laugh.
Thanks, Dave.
Now, what I want to say to you, Nick, is Liz Truss today banging on about France and Macron and Europe in general.
Yeah.
I just wanted to run this past you. If they're so obsessed with taking back control, why don't they take back control of all our utility companies?
Right. Well, I'm on board. I think most of the people in this country are on board. Most of the people who are looking enviously at what France is presenting to them as their next fuel bill, 4% rise on where it was last year, I think we would like that too. But but that's not what people voted for, though. Not last time around. They didn't vote for a party that would even contemplate such a thing.
I just cannot believe the way our country has gone downhill. Also, and people seem oblivious to it, all my friends.
They seem to be okay with it. In fact, to say what you've just said, Dave, would make people call you unpatriotic. You are talking the nation down, which is so the opposite of the truth. You're not talking. You are concerned about this country. So am I. And to
I'm regularly
just
called a socialist.
Right, exactly. Yeah, socialist, Marxist, lefty, activist, all of those stupid.
But you know what, Nick?
Labels.
No matter how much I try to educate them, I'll give them the figures from years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's like talking to a brick wall.
Dave,
I thought these was intelligent friends of mine.
They don't need no education. They don't need no thought control.
Rock and roll!
Don't even attempt it.
I'll tell you what, even my family members, and they're just voting for themselves to get poorer. And I can't get through to them.
It is mystifying.
It is, Nick.
But if you talk to people like that, they will say, well, they knew what they were voting for. I knew what I was voting for when I voted for Brexit. No, you absolutely didn't, unless you were voting for the country to get poorer and for your horizons to become narrower and your options to decrease. If that's actually what you were voting for, then you need some sort of intervention. You need some psychological help. But people weren't voting for that. They were voting for some sort of fantasy that they were told was going to exist, and that anybody who thought about it for just 10 seconds would realise is an impossibility, but they were just swept up in it. And they've spent the entire time since saying, I knew what I was voting for, and excusing every tiny little thing that goes wrong as being something that's not associated with Brexit, whereas of course it is. It's the French being mean to us. That was the sort of the background to what Truss said. That stupid thing that she said about France. God, it's just so painful. Just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. It does. Just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. Still, you know me. I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
0345 6060 973. Hey, by the way, it's coming up to towards the end of the programme, so I should have said this earlier on to a bigger audience, but I'll just stick it in now, Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin, which is called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
We solve people's problems, mostly. That's the idea anyway. And we cannot solve your problem unless you tell us what it is. Simply send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com, NICKANDCAROL @global.com, and prepare for total satisfaction. It's on Global Player. It's also here, there, and everywhere, baby. It's on an internet near you. Ask for it by name. What's your problem with Nick and Carol?
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Come on, we're running late.
Al texts, I propose another candidate for runner-up to Johnson as the worst PM ever as David Cameron. He held the EU referendum. That's right, David Cameron. You held the EU referendum, you idiot. And I mean that in a respectful way. He says he held the EU referendum. He played Russian roulette with our lives, and Johnson pulled the trigger again and again and again.
I think this is nonsense.
Tinmouth. Hello, David.
Good morning.
Yes, David.
Yeah, it's just, you made this comment about the rich making the money from the poor, out of the poor.
Yeah.
I know personally...
Well, I didn't say they made it out of the poor.
Well, through their efforts. There's a chap...
No, not necessarily through their efforts, but they couldn't have done it without them, is what I'm saying.
Well, they only coordinated and made it work. There's a chap in Plymouth who started off selling from a briefcase in one of the car parks in Plymouth, and is now with his wife worth £2 billion
right.
through sheer hard work and effort. And you look at Alan Sugar, another one.
Yes, but they could not have got to where they are without the effort of the poor.
Well, that's an impossibility.
What is?
Anyway, well, he pays decent salaries, so they're not poor. He brings in industry that's supplying with his raw materials. You've only got to look at other systems in the world.
Okay. Do the people that he employs have their rubbish taken away? Yes. Who takes the rubbish away? The people who earn among the least in society. Do the people who work for him rely on the NHS? Yes.
Yes.
Who makes the NHS run? Porters, nurses, that kind of thing. Do the people that work for him rely on the police doing their job? Yes. And you can keep going and going and going. And all of the people in this country are propped up by the people at the bottom. It's the people on minimum wage who stack shelves and clean up after us and all of the rest of us. But to deny that is actually the truth is what a lot of rich people do. They think that they only got to where they are without any help from anybody of any kind whatsoever, which is totally, completely and utterly untrue. Mostly, it's luck, David.
No, it's not.
It is, absolutely.
It's choice. It can be choice.
It's
can I give you
luck. Life is luck. And only those who have made it like to convince themselves that luck has nothing to do with it, that they only got there by their own genius and hard work. Impossible. It didn't happen.
Just listen for a minute rather than just going on and on and on. You can be extremely funny when but you can get a bit hysterical. However,
this is me hysterical.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Right.
Can you let me give you
I had
another
no
example.
idea I was in hysterics, but go on.
Oh, I hear sometimes you almost can't stop yourself. However, immediately after the war, I was born at the beginning of the war, so when I was about 8 or 9, I was extremely fortunate because I had an auntie who worked on the packing belts at Cabbies. Now, any chocolate that came through Cabbies that had that white blur on it, they give away, and we used to do what chocolate. Now, my auntie, she was not the brightest thing in the box, but she really enjoyed her job. She was with all her mates having a little chat and going through, and she felt herself lucky. Her husband worked damned hard. They couldn't have children, so they adopted a child. So they
but what's this got? This is it's a nicer history lesson. But what's it got to do with then what we're talking about?
It has a thing that it isn't necessarily that the Cabbies relied on the backs of the poor. Have you ever been to Cabbies in Birmingham? Have you been
surprisingly not. No, it's not really on my list of to-do things. Going to Cabbies in Birmingham. No, I haven't, David. I don't really understand what that has to do with what we're talking about.
Well, it has everything to do with it because his Bourneville village was built by the Cabbies family for their workers and made very, very... And the sports facilities... When I was a student at college in Birmingham, we didn't have...
right, but what's this got to do with what we're talking about?
You were talking about the exploitation of the...
No, I was not talking about the exploitation of the workers. I was talking about the fact that the rich of a certain type don't want to pay for the upkeep of the poor. despite the fact the rich would not be in the place they're in were it not for the work of the poor. It's like they deny the contribution that 99% of the population make, without which they would not be in their exalted place. That's what I'm saying, David. And I don't really see how you've got an argument with that.
Well, I have the argument by saying that they're exploited, but they're not. You look at Cabbies.
Again, you're putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying they're exploited. I'm saying they're ignored. I'm saying they're just rubbed out of the picture entirely, as though their efforts account for nothing. That's my point. And I'm really not interested in going on about Cabbies. But I wish you and your chocolate-loving granny all the best. East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Great, mate.
Yeah, great. In spite of you and James and various other presenters doing brilliant educational stuff, nothing will change.
Wait a minute. Educational? I don't think so. Not this show.
No.
No.
It is, mate. And in spite of that, until the poorly educated and harder thinking actually realise for themselves what's happening, nothing will change. But the unfortunate bit of that is that when that happens, they don't tend to react with reason. It tends to get messy.
Yeah.
But it is.
Well, if they learn that they have made a wrong choice and it is indisputable and there's no way that they can talk themselves out of it, then they will react very aggressively indeed, because at that point they will lose face. And anything can happen at that point. Anything.
Yeah, and a lot of faith is so important. It's all psychological at the end of the day. But your last caller, though, was talking about Cadbury's. Well, the simple thing is, how did Cadbury family get so rich and have so many poor workers? Maybe they looked after them a bit better than other employers did. But you still have a situation of a vast number of incredibly poor workers and a very small number of very rich Cadburys.
Yeah, I mean they're sort of held up as a shining example of what old style capitalism could do for the workforce. You know, back in whenever it was, the turn of the century. But even then, I mean, the workforce, they weren't living in beautiful homes. They were tiny little places. So, you know, it's like, we've been given a crumb, and that should make us grateful forever.
Yeah, look at Andrew Carnegie. He absolutely exploited his workers all his life. And then at the end he thought, I'd better look good here. So there was Carnegie colleges, Carnegie libraries, Carnegie everything else. And he was held up as a paragon of helping the poor. No, he really didn't.
They call it philanthropy. You and I give money to charity. They call it philanthropy because it's a longer word and it makes it sound better, but it's actually just them whitewashing their reputation by chucking 10 pence at some poor people. Well, often not even poor people. So chucking 10 pence at some institution that will write their name on the side of a building, by which method they can be glorified.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely right. But until people realise what's being done to them, it won't change. But it will happen eventually.
I'm not sure. I don't. Well, it hasn't happened yet. I mean, how many hundreds of years need to go by?
Well, it goes up and down. I mean...
Does it?
Okay. Yeah, you get like the French Revolution.
And, right. Other places, other countries.
Yeah, other
not
places,
here.
Not in the UK. But when it gets bad enough, people will react. And it's like people are saying winter discontent and general strikes. And yeah, we're heading in that direction. But,
yeah, but exactly right. We're about to repeat something that didn't really make any difference the last time around.
Yeah, but if Truss keeps on saying no handouts, eventually people will kick off big time about it. There is a limit. And they think they can put... Look what they've done over the last 12 years, the Conservative government. teachers' salaries, rock bottom. They think, they love the pupils. They'll keep working.
And yes, I get
National
all of that.
education.
I understand all of that, Mike. But I betcha, at least 40% of the population will vote Conservative next time around because they're doing their best. Or we're going to have Brexit taken from us. Or look, a dinghy, stuff like that.
As long as it's only 38%, the result will go the right way.
Unless the other, what did you say, 38? Unless the other 62
Get out and vote.
Well, they won't vote in as many numbers because they'll be younger. Remember, the Tory vote is older, so they always go out and vote, 60 plus. And the younger people will split their vote between the Greens and the Lib Dems and the Labour Party, thereby gifting the Tories the next general election. Want to take a bet?
I think not. I think it will be a split. I think that hopefully the Labour and Libs will get enough not to need the SNPs to form a government. And then
they're going to work together as a rainbow coalition? They're going to put their differences aside and act in their own interests? No, I don't think so.
And hopefully then they've got the balls to give us PR.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think they'll do that either. It's, I don't know. You sort of think it around and how could it possibly get any worse? And then another day dawns and it has got worse. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. 034, I don't know why I'm giving the number out because that's me done. Keith tweets, a Truss government will have Sir Deadwood and Sunken Smith in it, so what could go wrong? Keith, what could go right? I don't like ending on a listener with material, but oh well, time's up. I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock, trying to get through the, 14 pages of closely typed texts and emails that I didn't read tonight. I am very bad at my job.
Correct.
Stick around, Richard Spurs here at 4, but first, Clyde Ball. 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 First.